Hello and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, Makina's route. In the last episode, we got the first day of Yuuji and Makina outside of Mihammer Academy as they run away from. Yuuji also dealt with a couple of surveillance agents with ease. We also got a glimpse into Yuji's past and, more importantly, about his parents' demise and his growing up. Let's continue. 15 minutes until raid. Are all personnel in position? All except the one assigned to the emergency exit. It seems that a bicycle's been abandoned in the front of the door. Shall we remove it? The door won't open unless it's removed? Yes, so it would seem. Then leave it be. If possible, try to wedge it more firmly in place. Affirmative. Less than 12 hours after the commotion last night, specifically at 5 o'clock this morning, there was a misdial directly to my office from an outside line. Chiara Farrell answered, introducing herself as a receptionist at a fictional company we use to screen all outside calls. A young man on the other end of the line said, "I'm sorry, wrong number," then instantly hung up the phone. Some people are apparently still under the impression it takes time to trace a phone call, but that hasn't been true for decades. Today, everything is managed digitally, so it's possible to retrieve the relevant data instantly via JWAN. Our trace revealed that the call had been placed from a public telephone installed in a park in Suginami Ward. We attempted repeated callbacks immediately after the man hung up on us, but no one picked up the receiver. Agents were dispatched to the site immediately. My hypothesis: the person who had placed this call was almost certainly Kasami Yuuji. Most likely, the nasty little brat was intending to stand by with a watch in one hand, measuring the time it would take for our agents to arrive. Should we arrive on the scene within 10 minutes, he would learn there were active service personnel searching the neighborhood. If, on the other hand, we were to take longer than 30 minutes, he could conclude that our net had been spread wide and thin. When the opponent gives you a net and exploratory tug, it's only natural to try and use that against him. Assuming a scenario in which our personnel arrive on the scene on average of 7 minutes after the call, even if you began sprinting immediately after hanging up the phone, it would be difficult to cover more than 1.75 kilometers. Taking into account Kasami Yuji's athleticism, I arranged for an all-multi-story architectural structure within 2,000 meter radius of the public telephone to be searched. 4 sites fit this criteria: the JTTC Hirasawa building, Parkview Suginami, Central Tower Higashiu, and Sun Avenue Clio. Plainclothes agents were dispatched to search all of these. 19 minutes later, I sent a dummy agent to put on a show of investigating the telephone itself. After 4 minutes of this, an agent spotted Kasami Yuuji descending an emergency staircase on the high-rise apartment Parkview Suginami, a building which afforded an excellent view of the park below. We commenced shadowing him. A full hour of evasive maneuvering around the city ensued, but eventually he led us back to the lodging facility that seems to be serving as his hideout. 11 agents relieved our pursuit team and settled in for surveillance. After 3 hours, they reported a confirmed sighting of our real target. I drew up a formal proposal for a forcible entry and waited for the go-ahead from HQ. And just about half an hour ago, I received authorization. At present, a special ambush team consisting of 23 members, including backup, has been deployed around the building. The raid begins in another 10 minutes. We've successfully evacuated all civilians from the building, including the old woman who runs the place. 10 minutes until raid. Any sign they had noticed? The thermosensors detect 2 heat sources remaining inside, one in the far right corner of the room, one in its very center. Neither have moved in at least the last half hour. They are not moving. Any conversation? The laser listening device isn't providing us with much because of the curtains over the windows, but it seems the sounds of a television set are audible even from outside, so it would seem likely that they're watching a program. I don't like this. Let's push the raid back 30 minutes and keep observing. Don't talk nonsense out of the airgun. Just how much do you think it's costing us to completely close down every street in that neighborhood? We're fortunate it wasn't a residential district, but if this drags on much longer, we'll have to compensate every store and commercial enterprise in the area. But There's no but here, my dear. I heard the plan you submitted and even included an application for helicopters, yes. Just how much of our budget do you intend to blow through catching a single stray dog? Ridiculous. Oh please, if that's what you worry about, why not write up an invoice later? We can pass it over to the NPA, the NPA can hand it over to Nagatacho, and then Nagatacho can give it to the Irisu Clan. Problem solved. Excuse me, that's more than enough of that. Please refrain from alluding to such delicate subjects in present company. In the first place, I believe the plan I submitted called for the application of official bylaw Article 4. But evacuating the area for the purpose of clearing unexploded ordnance would require embroidering matters for the media as well. Didn't you see the directive to handle this without any flashy song and dance routines? It would also serve as an excellent excuse if the operation were, by any chance, to fail. The situation calls for an embroidery. Look, we've been waiting here all day if we tried to get a disaster relief operation approved. 5 minutes until raid. Alright, get in there. Not yet, for Christ's sake, she said 5 minutes, didn't she? Look, you really don't have to get that angry. Qa'Rajh, perform the final check. Yes, raid team, Alpha, backup, Bravo, blockade, Charlie, observation, Delta, relief squad, Echo, all teams coordinated and in position. Let me repeat myself, just to make this perfectly clear. Take Irisu Makina into custody without harming her any more than strictly necessary. The girl will be an extremely useful bargaining chip. Prioritize taking her alive. Should number 9029 attempt to interfere, you are authorized to suppress him with any force necessary. Relay that to the field one last time. Yes, go ahead. Queen to all cards. Take Alice into custody. If Rabbit poses an obstacle, deadly force is authorized. Over. For crying out loud. None of this is playing out the way I wanted it to. We may be part of a ministry instead of an agency now, with a nice sign outside our office, but all we really got out of the deal was a lot of politics and red tape. Our group was far lighter on its feet as a permanent combat unit. Admittedly, this is a fairly small-scale spot mission, but I can't even get a surveillance helicopter in the air, let alone airborne with early warning. My plan was already covered in red pen before it was even made up to the chain to the brass, who promptly authorized it in the mangled form with no alterations whatsoever. They cut giant holes in my strategy, then dumped it right back onto my desk. I'd at least understand the amateurs in the Irisu family signing off on this, but we're supposed to know what we're doing here. Urgent from Delta Team, it seems they have detected traces of explosive material in the area around the building. More specifically, it's nitrogen dioxide. They suspect nitro explosives of some sort. Well, hardly sounds like anything worth worrying about. That lot takes every pack of matches in a briefcase for a weapons of mass destruction. We'll continue the operation as scheduled. It's too dangerous. Look here, Haruderakun. If you're looking for safe work, I would strongly recommend a change of occupation. What should we do? There's very little time before the raid. Director. Damn the nitrogen, I'm telling you to go. Now, commence the raid. Oh, lovely, my stomach's killing me already. 0 minutes to raid. Team Alpha commencing raid. Wire trap detected and removed. Entering the building now. Nausea settles heavily in my stomach. At the same time, a hazy uneasiness swirls deep inside my chest. There's nothing I'd like more than to burst out of this room and run away. The queasiness in my stomach I owe to Director Otsuka's pig-headed rashness, and I more or less understand where the gloominess in my heart is coming from as well. In any case, I've got a bad feeling about this. To be more precise, I've got a whole range of bad feelings about this and not much else. Kasami Yuuji is a shrewd man with the instinct of a wild animal. I can't help feeling we caught his tail far too easily. This should be approached as a potential trap. It certainly looks as though we've cornered him, but even a small shift in event could reverse that dynamic entirely. No one as light on their feet as those convinced of victory, and the lighter you are on your feet, the easier it is to knock you to the ground. I know Kasami Yuuji learned that lesson well. After all, I'm the one who taught it to him. In total darkness, I feel for the black backlight button on my wristwatch and push it in. The time is exactly 9 AM. As the watch buzzes softly and emits a faint electroluminescent light, I catch a glimpse of Makina's face. Her expression is visibly anxious. It's time. You ready, Makina? Yeah. Don't grab a rich man or an agent by the tail. That's the secret to living a long life. Even if you should happen to coincidentally discover an enemy spy performing their duties, don't assume you've just made your career. Agents are often compared to rats or moles. But the single biggest difference between them and your average rodent is that agents are trained professionals. It's highly unlikely you are going to just stumble across one in the field, implausibly so. Your first thought should be that they are trying to bait you somehow. As for the second biggest difference, in the spy population there are a decent number of predators mixed in among the prey. Agents do more than skulk around and hide. Sometimes you'll find one with nasty teeth lying in wait to ambush you and rip a hole in your net. In short, never allow yourself to assume the spy you've just randomly discovered is a careless idiot. And whatever you do, don't tag along back to his lair all by yourself dreaming of medals on your chest. The more enticing things appear, the more carefully you need to watch your ass. Success is directly proportional to cowardice. That's how you deal with an agent. Hey, Papa. What? I'm cold. Deal with it. 9/10 of the fugitive lifestyle comes down to toughing it out. I realized the building was surrounded at 7:30 AM. If there's one thing I know about the Bastard HQ, it's that they never miss a meal or a siesta, so I assumed we'd have to wait until after breakfast before the actual raid took place. And exactly as expected, they held back for precisely an hour and 30 minutes before finally making the move. During that delay, Makina and I finished all of our preparations, then quickly hid ourselves inside a large commercial refrigerator. Turns out there's an enormous kitchen in this place, probably a remnant of some forgotten era when it was a hot spring hotel, and the fridge inside proved equally massive. A stainless steel refrigerator, in other words, an enormous lump of heat insulating material, an ideal hiding place. After emptying the fridge of its contents and pulling out the shelves, Makina and I climbed inside, closing it behind us with a single tower wedged in the door. This way we can simply yank the towel to fling the door open, enabling us to jump out quickly if the need arises. Battle against time now. Hopefully they'll fall for the trap before we get hypothermia in here. What do we do if they go in slow and careful and clean up all the traps? I took countermeasures against that. After everyone else in the hotel was quietly evacuated, I went around the building laying traps all over the place. I call them traps only in the loosest sense of the word. They are most extremely simple trap wires and 80% are dummies. Carefully tracing the wire back to its source, you'll find that many of them are just harmlessly tied around a pillar. Might sound like nothing but a childish prank, but there are a few elaborate works of art mixed in there as well. I'm particularly proud of the little number installed on the door of the room we were staying in. Creeping along toward our room from the front entrance, painstakingly clearing one dummy wire trap, then another, you'll start to feel a little let down despite yourself. And then, just as you're beginning to think, are any of these things real, you'll run into that lunchbox. Lunchbox. Right, literally a box that once held a lunch. Specifically the one Amani prepared for us before we left the dorm. Makina and I enjoyed the food inside last night. As she watched the empty box, Makina softly mumbled, "We can't go give the box back, can we?" And I was struck by a thought. Lunchbox is a standard slang in our profession for a time bomb. Seemed an appropriate choice for a shammed threat. The lunchbox, connected to a door by a series of wires, currently contains a fake bomb constructed of random odds and ends. Taking a photograph with an X-ray camera would immediately reveal the contents to be junk. But if you arrange it carefully with a few plausible looking parts here and there, you can produce something that's hard to distinguish from an irregular explosive device covered in unregulated trash. It's quite common to dump junk on top of guts of an actual bomb. When the man looking over it says, "What, just a dummy?" and opens the lid, it blows up in his face. Nasty prank that agents from the East are particularly fond of. But thanks to those dirty bastards, just sprinkling a little nitrogenous fertilizer over some random crap in a box is enough to leave professionals sweating bullets for a good 10 minutes. Drill a completely meaningless screw or two through the surface of the lunchbox, and they'll be pissing themselves for a good 20. It's an extremely helpful trick in certain circumstances. Some of the more high-tech bombs these days can detect penetration of X-rays, and others have thermometers that trigger an explosion if you try to use liquid nitrogen to defuse them. So you'll carefully disassemble this thing, trembling in your booties, only to discover it's yet another dummy. Had about enough of this crap by now, right? So you throw open the door to the room, where the final trap is waiting for you. That one you made with my digital pet? That's right. Good luck dealing with that one. High-tech toys these days are made of some pretty impressive stuff in their own right. You'd be surprised what they can do. That digital pet Makina is always carrying around is a good case in point. That cheap-looking plastic eggshell contains a tiny 3-axis geomagnetic sensor. A little rewiring and we got ourselves an extremely precise and low-cost trap that can be triggered by the slightest movement. The world really is a convenient place these days. It all comes down to the 8 seconds after the enemy falls for that trap. Seventh trap removed. It was another dummy. Again? Aren't all of these things dummies? It's just the pointless floundering of a rat cornered in his hole. The purpose of the dummies is to make us think that way. We can't let our guard down. Alpha has arrived at the room where the target is hiding. Discovered a lunchbox up to the door. Now disarming. What? Again? It's already been 10 minutes since this raid began. Just another dummy, isn't it? No, this time it seems they've been able to detect a faint clock pulse from an oscillator inside the apparatus. Some sort of electronic circuit seems to be active. So this is the favorite child, is it? Deal with it as quickly as possible. Is the target still inside the room? Yes, the heat source detected by the thermosensors indicate he isn't moving yet. I see. Urgent report from Delta.
Oh, what now?
Well, it appears the interior of the room where the target is hiding has been rising in temperature.
Rising in temperature? What's that about?
Not good. Get all of the personnel out of that building immediately.
What? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? Explain yourself.
There's a possibility the target has saturated the room with combustible gas. The terrorist brothers Mario and Antonio used the same trick in 71. That explosion took out an entire Special Forces squad along with most of the building, killing 18. The building itself is a trap. Evacuate now!
Don't be ridiculous. The target's inside the building. You can't think he plans to blow himself up.
Mario and his brother survived the explosion by hiding inside a large refrigerator. The target is likely taking similar measures. Look, we can talk later. For now, just give the order to pull out. Ah! What is it this time? Alpha has opened the door. What? Hold on. We have a situation. It's gas. The room is emitting a large volume of gas.
An explosion?
No, nothing. The gas seems to be commercial insecticide fumigant. All personnel have finished equipping their masks.
Insecticide? What a joke! What about the targets in the room?
It seems the heat sources were the product of chemical reactions inside a pair of plastic kerosene tanks. Apparently they were serving as makeshift vaporizers for the pesticides. He got us good.
But that means they're still hiding somewhere inside the building. All personnel begin searching.
Wait, please allow the gas to disperse out of the building first. Since he made use of vaporizers, his goal is almost certainly a dust explosion. A gunfight under these conditions would be enough to trigger an enormous blast.
The target likely intends to make use of this confusion to make his escape. And it won't be a problem if we don't use the guns, yes? Begins the search at once.
But a report from Alpha Leader, he claims to have discovered some variety of toys suspended from the room ceiling by a string.
A toy? And what about that warranted our attention?
Ah, don't tell me. Hold on, don't touch that! Alpha, please reply. This is Queen. Alpha, reply. He got us good for real this time.
What are you talking about?
It was a pendulum-type detonator. Say we set up vaporizing equipment inside a poorly ventilated room, saturating the air with a smoky mixture of insecticide and particulate dust. When the door is opened, the particulates stagnant inside the room are ejected outward, and the oxygen necessary for combustion floods in. producing the conditions for a dust explosion. And if we then hang an electronic toy capable of measuring angular velocity through geomagnetic sensors from the ceiling as a detonator, if we rig the device so that the slightest disturbance in the pendulum's movements would trigger an explosion, well, you can see the result for yourself.
Damn it all, what's the current situation? Report!
Team Alpha, 2 wounded, severity level 6, urgent evacuation required. Also, it seems several small-scale fires have broken out on the site. Team Bravo is currently attempting to extinguish them.
What about the target? Begin searching the building.
Team Delta has just rotated to investigation. Wait, before that, who are the 2 wounded? The Alpha 3 and Alpha 4 pair. They were standing by in the vicinity of the door, so presumably the high-velocity burst of flame from the explosion hit them directly.
Did you confirm that?
No, I'll do so immediately.
Be quick about it. Look here, Qa'Rajh, we have more important things to worry about than the conditions of our wounded.
Alpha 3 and Alpha 4 have apparently commandeered a vehicle. They are fleeing the scene.
What?
Track them by GPS. They didn't steal one of the specially equipped vans. The vehicle they took was a material transport, so there's no locator on board. Tracking isn't possible.
What about the observation copter?
OH-1's launch wasn't authorized. We don't have anyone in the sky.
Immediately register the relevant vehicle's numbers with the N system wanted car list.
Registered. The inquiry is being processed now.
Qa'Rajh.
That's that. We lost this round, plain and simple. As thus, the rabbit spirited Alice away, leaving the cards behind in the dust. Honestly, I don't think cowardly rabbits come any nastier than this.
Looks like we pulled off a clean getaway, Papa.
Yeah, I almost feel like it went too well, to be honest.
You're kind of a worrywart, you know what?
The operatives broke into our room, spreading concentrated gas throughout the building, then triggered an explosion via a literally untouchable incendiary device. Exactly according to plan. The roar of the blast was followed by the sound of shattering window panes. Then the loud cracking sound of the building itself swelling violently outward. With that as a cue, Makina and I quietly exited our hiding place. Flaming particles of dust were still swirling in the corners as we slipped out of the room and down the hallway. Ambushing and disabling 2 isolated members of the panic raid team took only seconds. We stripped the pair of the equipment and threw it on over our clothes, covered our faces with their gas masks, then left the building with Makina playing the role of casualty. As the relief team rushed over, I picked out the man with the armband of a squad leader, then shouted, "There's more wounded inside, we need help getting them out." Once the squad had rushed into the building, all that remained was silencing the 1 member who'd been left behind in the station wagon they were using as material transport. Such jobs are usually left to apprentices, still too green to enter the actual scene of raid, and when I glanced inside, I discovered a female employee wearing glasses. The only people who need corrective lenses in our company are total newbies who haven't gotten their mandatory vision correcting surgery yet. Woman couldn't have been with us for 3 months, however she had a truly fine rack. Just as I began idly wondering if rude titties had been added to the selection criteria for the SFGP, it struck me that the dopey-looking chubby-cheeked glasses girl before me was actually a familiar face. Well, if it isn't Heart 11 from last night. Yes, she was definitely the one and only agent I had allowed to escape from my little rampage in Shinbashi. I casually removed my gas mask and whispered a few words. "Hello again. Thanks for last night." The instant she saw my face, Heart 11's eyes went big as saucers behind her glasses, and her mouth fell open in a perfect circle. To her credit, she promptly reached out for that PTT button on her radio, but I put a stop to that. I grabbed her wrist, wrenched it sharply upward, and pulled out the cord of her radio before she could as much as blink. After trying her hands behind her back with a nylon cable, I ejected her forcibly from the vehicle. Leaving Heart 11 rolling around on the asphalt while yelping like a dog whose tail had been stepped on, we beat a hasty retreat in the station wagon. The notebook PC inside the vehicle allowed us to call up a map overlaid with the locations of N-system cameras and potential checkpoint deployments. Taking care to avoid them, we drove around the city in circles for a good hour or so. We crossed paths with motor patrol force cars several times during this little expedition, but there was no reaction. Seems safe to say that Sakura-daemon isn't heavily involved in this yet. I imagine they provided access to the end system, but it doesn't look like Ichigaya has given them photos of our faces, let alone requested an official manhunt.
When politics get involved, people sitting right next door to each other can't even manage to keep up a decent line of communication. All the more so when our company is the key player, of course. Honestly, you're both special state agencies, right? The hell's the point of sneaking around all the time?
What are you talking about?
Friendship in the grown-up world. There's a lot of bullshit involved. Anyway, let's ditch the wagon in this coin parking lot here. Don't forget anything inside, alright?
Yash! Wait, huh?
What's wrong?
I forgot something. The apple seedling. I must have left it in the kitchen at the inn.
What? Well, crap. We can't exactly run back over there to pick it up.
Oh no, what do I do? The tree's really important. I promised Sachin I'd take care of it.
It's a shame, but I don't think there's anything we can do, Makina.
But Papa, it's a seedling of hope, remember? We promised we'd see each other again when that tree goes up.
I understand, but we can't just casually wander back to the scene of the crime, can we? Even if we did, it wouldn't be there. They must have confiscated it as evidence by now.
We can't know until we take a look. You're giving up before we even try?
That's not what I'm... Shit, how can I explain this?
Oh, sorry, Papa. I know I'm being unreasonable, but that tree's...
Yeah, I understand. It's an important tree. For you and me both. It's a seed of hope. But look, Makina, even if the tree's safe, if you lose your life, it's all over. And on the other hand, even if we lose the tree, as long as you stay alive, we'll definitely see them again someday. Please understand.
But...
Don't worry too much, alright? If they confiscated it as evidence, it'll probably end up labeled and stowed in some vault. Once they're done investigating it, they'll water it to keep it from withering. I'll find a chance to go steal it back eventually, okay?
Yeah, okay. You promise?
Yep, that's a promise. So for now, let's focus on finding ourselves a place to hide out for the night.
We abandoned the nondescript station wagon with the keys hanging out of the passenger side door. Not like we left anything inside for a thief to steal, and it's hardly our problem if someone rips out the radio or whatever. In fact, it'd be convenient enough if someone were to steal the whole vehicle and have themselves a little joyride. Pulling Makina by the hand and trying to ignore the downcast expression on her face, I head down a flight of stairs into a subway station. Qa'Rajh coffee, severely caffeinated. Severely? Again, ma'am? That's your 18th cup, you know. That can't possibly be good for you. You don't have to pretend to be worried about me. What's the big deal anyway? It's got nothing to do with you if I burn a hole in my stomach. Don't get the wrong idea. What's with the pointless Sundara flavor? Chief, don't you think it's time for a little break? You're getting a little on the manic side here. I'm perfectly fine. It's not like you slept either, have you? Well, you see, I'm still young. Sorry, what? I must be getting up there in the years. Couldn't quite catch it. Well, Qa'Rajh, would you mind repeating yourself? A refill on that coffee, was it? Yes, severely caffeinated. Okay, seriously, what does that even mean? Are you trying to make it your catchphrase or what? I swear, why do I attract sharp-tongued children like bees to honey? Some kind of curse? Are you talking about me? And incidentally, where did the director run off to anyway? Who knows, presumably the central control room or what have you. Wherever he is, I imagine he's currently repeating, "This disaster wasn't my fault," like a broken record. Just between the two of us, I think I disliked that man from the moment I met him. Understandable, his face reminds you of Nixon, doesn't it? Just looking at it for too long makes you want to break his ugly nose. Is it just me or did you just blurt out something rather extreme? What? Did I say something just now? Ma'am, perhaps a little sleep would be best after all. This is hardly the time for that now, is it? If the cards fall wrong, I might end up with a certain someone yelping, "Maybe you let him escape on purpose," and an accusatory finger shoved in my face. That certainly does sound like something our director might do. Here you are, Chief. Coffee, severely caffeinated. Severely? I'm not the one who came up with that, you know. Seriously, please get some sleep. And any news of 1929's movements after the raid? Right, we have all 82 field operatives from headquarters searching, but presently his whereabouts remain unknown. We did find the car he stole, didn't he? Yes, there was a hit on the end system for a corresponding vehicle at 15:30 this afternoon. Investigators were quickly dispatched to the scene and successfully seized the vehicle, but the driver was a 19-year-old college student. The man in question testified that he had found the station wagon. And he didn't remember the place where he found it, yes? Anything since then? At 16:20, an individual strongly resembling 1929 was spotted in the area of Okachimachi Station, but upon closer examination it was confirmed to be someone else. Since then we haven't received any updates. I see. In that case, did we gain any clues from the times they left behind at the inn? One moment please, we have a list of everything seized from the site. Here it is. The items left behind included various chemicals, presumably used in producing his explosive, and fertilizer from his decoy traps, and 2 plastic tanks that serve as containers for his exothermic agent. All of these were apparently purchased at a hardware store in Koto Ward the previous day. In addition, we found the electronic toy he used as his detonator, but the model in question was apparently a 4-year-old product, not currently being sold over the counter anywhere. Its provenance is uncertain. Most likely a prior possession of Irisu Makina's. Anything else? We retrieved a wad of gum from the muzzle of an MP5K PDV from one of the squad members carried on the raid. Gum? Yes, grape-flavored bubblegum. According to analysis from our investigation team, it seems to be Bubble King brand, produced by Lidobori Japan Company. Kazami Yuji's DNA was detected in the saliva coating it. Not that it particularly matters who chewed it. Was there anything else left behind? There was also a single potted plant. A potted plant? The old woman who managed the place testified that Irisu Makina carried it in with her. It was discovered in the kitchen. What sort of flower is it? Actually, it seems to be a seedling apple tree. An apple tree? An apple tree, is it? Anything special about it? No, it's apparently a commonplace plant you could purchase for around 15,000 yen. 1,500 yen at any garden store. Oh, come to think of it, we had this delivered to us along with the investigation report. What's that? An envelope? From who? Who knows? It was just sitting there along with the analysis report. There's no sender listed either, but it's already addressed to Harudera Yuria Samasi. Oh goodness, not a bomb, I hope. Shall I have it looked over? That's alright. I do think I have a rough idea who this probably came from. Really? Who? Since it was delivered along with the analysis, it's probably a letter from the professor in the basement. A professor in the basement? Wait, are you talking about that super genius criminal who's supposed to be locked up in a cellar? Huh? Wasn't that an urban legend? What? Didn't you know? It's perfectly true. How about the UFO base on our rooftop? Surely you've heard about that one. Oh, spare me the hogwash, please. More importantly, what's inside that envelope? Well, let's see here. Return the potted plant to its prior location. Also, kindly refrain from burdening me with vapid busy work. Whoopsie, looks like the professor got mad. That's weird. I thought this was a pretty interesting job, personally. What on earth is this? Good question. I was hoping for a little behavioral science analysis of this incident as a basis of speculation for Kazami Yuji's next move. But I don't get it. Return the plant? What's that supposed to mean? How would I know? If you take it literally, I suppose it just means to drop off that seedling in the inn's kitchen. But what could that possibly accomplish? Okay, why are you asking me? I don't even know who this professor is in the first place. Well, whatever. Where's that potted plant being kept? All the evidence is currently being stored in the second materials room, but... Huh? You're putting it back where it was? Seriously? I mean, the professor told me to, right? Are you for real? You can't just do that. They're going to get mad at you again. It's fine. Nobody can oppose the professor. Huh? Seriously? Don't come crying to me later, okay? Not to worry. The professor knows everything. Every once in a great while there might be a minor miscalculation, but well, the answers the professor provides are always roughly correct. If the professor says to put the tree back where it was, that must mean returning it will trigger something. As to what that something might be, I don't have the slightest idea. That's honestly more than a little frustrating, even maddening. But even so, I'll sit on my heels and wait, because that too is part of my job. After several hours creeping around the city, Makina and I chose a love hotel as our lodgings for the night, then had ourselves a modest dinner of boxed lunches from a store in the neighborhood. Since my tongue has been getting used to Amani's mild cooking lately, I chose the boxed lunches in the hope that they might faintly suggest a similar home cooking feel. But apparently Makina didn't care for hers, and as she left most of his uneaten. If anything, I might just have exacerbated her with the yearning for Amani. Ever since discovering her apple tree was missing, the girl's been a bit of a sulk. Well, maybe depressed is a better way to put it. Her absurd cheerfulness has vanished and she's grown unusually quiet. It's not the first time I've seen Makina like this, but it's still a little hard. There's a selfish part of me that wants her to be smiling constantly. We got logistical problems as well. Our current cash reserves have dropped below 50,000 yen. Unless we get our hands on some money soon, we won't be able to sustain this fugitive lifestyle. In the first place, we can't just run around in circles forever. We absolutely need an endgame. All this means is I'll have to move the schedule up a little. Once again, night comes. As I watch the darkness in the sky grow deeper, it feels as though the black clouds in my mind are thickening as well. A deep black sky. When night completely covers the world, my head begins to throb with a familiar painful fear. The devil wakes up. My hand starts to kill people all on its own. You asleep, Makina? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take care of business. Wait here and behave yourself, alright?
Well then, let's have ourselves a nice little hunt. Papa? Urgent from COSS 0919. They've discovered an individual tentatively identified as number 1929 and are currently tailing him.
What, again? What is this, the fourth time now? Don't tell me it's yet another case of mistaken identity.
Entirely possible. Shall we have him discontinue the pursuit then?
I didn't say that. Where did Harudera-kun go anyway?
It seems she had an engagement. Shall I call her back?
An engagement? At a time like this? Honestly, I can't understand what that woman's thinking. Falcon, might I have a cup of coffee?
No.
What?
I'm not a waitress.
Excuse me, but you're always making coffee for Harudera-kun.
That's purely voluntarily just to take it on my own initiative. My job description doesn't include feeding grapes to arrogant male superiors.
Oh, I swear, backtalk from every corner. Do you all hate me that much?
Would you really care for an honest answer to that question?
I think I'll pass. Just forget about it.
Please don't talk like a child, sir. I'll make you some coffee later if I have the time, alright?
And when's later going to be?
Sir, didn't anyone ever teach you not to demand a specific time when someone's being deliberately vague? When you're told to stand by for the moment, that means to shut your mouth and wait until you're told otherwise.
Look, who do you think I am exactly?
Director Otsuka.
And should you really be taking this sort of an attitude with the director of your department?
Well, why do you think I'm phrasing my sentences so politely? You are annoying at best of times, sir, so please don't make things worse by talking nonsense.
Did you just call me annoying? Wait. Huh?
I'm rather busy, sir, so please go find someone else to play with. Or rather, how about just going home if you have nothing to do?
Even you're giving me this now. My god, it's like I'm talking to a miniature Harudera-kun.
Well, I imagine so. She is a colleague I respect deeply, after all.
What is it?
Target lost. We lost sight of the individual thought to be 1929.
Lost sight of him? What's that supposed to mean?
It means our agent is no longer able to determine 1929's whereabouts.
I wasn't asking what the words meant. This agent isn't a damn amateur. I want to know why they lost sight of him.
They were tailing number 1929, who isn't exactly an amateur himself. Perhaps that has something to do with it?
Get back up to the scene immediately.
That's easy for you to say, sir, but the only people we have in the field right now are 3-digit numbers, half-civilian intelligence operatives. There's no way they're going to be able to deal with a 4-digit special agent like 1929, now is there?
Why don't we have any 4-digit numbers in the field?
Have you really forgotten, sir? Just the other day we sent several of them charging recklessly into a building to get roasted.
Our friends at HQ were rather upset. To quote, "We're not kamikazes, damn it."
That's not my responsibility.
There's not much point in saying that to me, you know.
What is it now?
COS 019, signal lost. I'm afraid he's likely been taken out.
God damn it, why are we using these useless country bumpkins in the first place?
Oh, you called a civilian a bumpkin? Bad boy.
Could you please try to take your job seriously?
It's not easy being any of these persons carry around Kasami.
Bad boy, bad boy. I'll tell teacher. That's no good at all. Didn't you instruct your teacher to abandon attaining up the instant you lose sight of your target and to postpone reporting in until you reach a safe place?
To COS 019, it all seemed to have happened in the blink of an eye. Just moments before, he'd been following closely as number 1929 walked away from the station, moving against the flow of drunkards jogging to catch the last train. When 1929 melted into a group of young people who'd already given up on getting home for the night, COS 019 had clicked his tongue softly in frustration. He did have a vague sense that 1929 had noticed his pursuit, but he couldn't let the man just slip away like this. Raising his sleeve to his mouth, COS 019 began to speak into the hidden microphone, hoping to arrange for another 3-digit agent to relieve him. And in that moment of distraction, he lost sight of 1929 entirely. Damn! Was he waiting for that? Hurriedly whispering the situation into his cuff mic, he moved his gaze back and forth across the street, but the man in the black suit was nowhere to be found. It was as if 1929 had simply melted away into darkness. In the split second COS 019 had taken his eyes off of him. Panic surging through his mind, COS 019 took a first rapid step toward the spot where he'd last seen his target. In that instant there was a soft, purposeful whisper of air from behind, and his spine turned to ice. COS 019 had time only for a sharp inhalation of breath before a brutal kick smashed into his knee from the side. As the joint gave way with a sickening crunch, paralyzing pain shot through his body and he began to fall. But before he could hit the ground, a knee shot up and struck his chin. Brilliant stars filled his field of vision. By the time the thought, "This is bad," flashed through his mind, he could no longer even stand. He reached out blindly for the wall, only to have his arm grabbed and yanked upward, immobilizing his shoulder and elbow joints. Completely unable to defend himself, he was smashed face first against the hard concrete wall again and again. By the third blow, he was unconscious. The next thing COS 019 knew, he was being dragged roughly down the back alley by his armpits, his legs scraping painfully against the asphalt. The belt-type harness around his waist with its small GPS locator had been removed, his cell phone had been taken away and turned off, and the radio antenna hidden on the back of his collar had been ripped out. His limbs were bound with heavy-duty nylon cords designed for electrical work, and his own necktie had been balled up and stuffed into his mouth as a gag. He felt a vague sense of admiration at the thorough professionalism of his assailant. Only half conscious, the world swimming darkly before his eyes as though he were drowning in a sea of oil, COS 019 heard 1929's voice. Armani, huh? You foreign capital types do get the nice suits. 1929's hand slipped into the breast pocket of 019's jacket. You walk around with your ID? Not like it gets you free train rides or discounts at the movies. You're a little too earnest, buddy. A white background with a green border on the photo. Central Security Bureau, eh? You're pretty damn photogenic for someone in this line of work, aren't you? I'm envious. I just don't get along with cameras, you know. Always comes out looking like the mugshot on a wanted poster. Don't suppose you have any tips? Nah, don't worry about it. I was just messing around. Pipe down, alright? So what? You're working alone? Should be a pair for this kind of job. Where's your buddy? You guys short-handed? Well, you know, I don't really want to badmouth my own company, but it's kind of the organization that takes 5 days to deliver water to the site of an earthquake. We got ourselves one aggravating employer, you and me both. Pattering away in a soft voice devoid of emotion, 1929 shifted his attention to its 019's ankles. Oh, a Glock, huh? Nice gun. Did your mom buy it for you? We even got a spare magazine. Mind if I borrow this for a while? Don't worry, I'll give it back in good shape. Incidentally, I'm going to be using you as live bait, okay? I apologize for the inconvenience. With a few light slaps to 019's cheeks, 1929 pulled back on the gun slide, ejected the red dummy block from the cartridge chamber, and slid in a round of live ammunition. COS 019 just went live.
What?
We're receiving a signal from his GPS locator. I have his current location.
Where is he?
He's currently stationary, transmitting from the same point where we lost the signal earlier.
What is this? Why now?
Who knows? Maybe he simply regained consciousness.
Then why isn't he getting in contact with us?
His cell phone and radio may have been damaged. Well, that's only my speculation on my part, of course.
Where's the backup?
707 and 106 are currently rushing to the scene.
Only 2? How about the other field personnel?
Those 2 were the only agents anywhere near the scene, and we've only got 18 people spread across the entire metropolitan area, you know? Moving anyone else over would open a gaping holes in the net.
But only 2 3-digits against a 4-digit agent. That's a bad bet any way you look at it.
Since it's come to this, why not ask the police to send over a SIT or a SAT squad?
Don't be ridiculous. You expect me to beg Sakura Damon to put out a fire that started inside our house? God, I'd rather choke. Just the other day, their safety chief sidled up to our internal affairs director and said, apparently the reserve can't even keep their pet dogs leashed these days, with a sarcastic little grin on his face.
Respectfully, sir, what's that got to do anything? I mean, why do we have so many enemies in the first place? Making external enemies is one thing, but what kind of operation has its left hand and right hand at complete loggerheads? Seriously.
That's the nature of an organization rich in tradition and character, Falcon.
707 and 106 have both arrived at the scene, currently surveying the area.
What's 019's status? Confirm immediately.
They've spotted 019. He seems to be tied up. Ah!
What happened?
Gunfire audible from the transmission. Multiple shots fired.
What?
Report both agents injured. They've sustained disabling gunshot wounds to their legs.
God damn it, what a fiasco.
Supplementary report. The weapon used was 019's 9mm automatic handgun. It seems torn newspaper was stuffed into the muzzle as silencer.
What about 1929? Is he still there?
No, it seems he fled the scene immediately. The gun was left behind in partially disassembled condition, with the slide assembly and magazine removed. Awfully thoughtful of him.
Most likely to avoid raising his threat level through possession of a firearm. Crafty little dog.
Certainly did a number on us. He turned 019 into live bait to lure out the others. It's a classic sniper tactic. And what's more, after bringing down 3, he tore up and discarded the gun, then promptly left the scene. That lack of greed is another hallmark of a professional sniper.
One way or the other, the man's an utter nuisance. Get an incident processing team to the site. Were there any deaths?
No. 019, 707 and 106 are all wounded, but there are no fatalities. Shall I send a relief squad to the scene?
Yes, you do that. I'll go to the central control room and get yelled at again. Take care of the rest.
Understood, sir. No death. Does that mean the safety pin's still in place? A good question, and it's a question that might be answered next time. So, until then, take care.